Welcome to Jesus Yoga. Welcome to the Easter special today on Holy Thursday. Holy Thursday marks a really important day because here we have the Last Supper where Christ explains that when he passed out the bread, it turns into his flesh and the disciples have part of him and they drink the wine, but it's actually his blood. And we see a lot of times in the churches, this is done symbolically in just remembrance. So they're having a good breakfast. But that is not what the Eucharist, the Last Supper, and what we do in Mass is done. It is actually the priest representing Jesus, changing the bread into the flesh and the wine into the blood of Christ. And we're actually taking part of him. We are being part of him. And the next thing that happens is the washing of the feet. And I want to read about this. And we go to John 13. You find it somewhere else as well, but in John 13, that's where I'm reading from. Now, before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come, that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper being ended, the devil, having already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, rose from supper and laid aside his garments, took a towel and girded himself. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, "Lord, are you washing my feet?" Then he came, and Jesus answered and said to him, "What I'm doing you do not understand now, but you will know after this." Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." And Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean, and you are clean, but not all of you." For he knew who would betray him. Therefore he said, "You're not all clean." So when he had washed their feet, taking his garments and sat down again, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, 'Well, for so I am.' If then your Lord and teacher have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you should do as I have done. Most assuredly I say to you, a servant is no greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them. I do not speak concerning all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but that the scripture may be fulfilled. He who eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me. Now I tell you before it comes, that when it does come to pass, you may believe that I am he. Most assuredly I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me." When Jesus had said these things, he was troubled in spirit and testified and said, "Most assuredly I say to you, one of you will betray me." Then the disciples looked at one another, perplexed about whom he spoke. Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore motioned to him to ask him it was of whom he spoke. Then leaning back on Jesus' breast, he said to him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is he to whom I shall give a piece of bread when I have dipped it." And having dipped the bread, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. Now after the piece of bread, Satan entered him. Then Jesus said to him, "What you do, do quickly." But no one at the table knew for what reason he said this to him. For some thought, because Judas had the money box, that Jesus had said to him, "Buy those things we need for the feast," or that he should give something to the poor. Having received the piece of bread, he then went out immediately, and it was night. The interesting thing is that Jesus said it's he who I'm giving the bread to. But still nobody understood. I don't think anybody could believe that somebody amongst them would betray Jesus. And it's interesting, Judas Iscariot was the treasurer of Jesus. He was holding on to the money. Jesus wasn't as poor as we think, because surely most of you won't have a treasure. I don't have a treasure. Somebody who's having to hold on to the money because you have so much that somebody else has to hold on to the money. And Judas Iscariot was a thief. We know it from scripture that he was taking from the money that he had in that box for himself. Jesus knew. And Jesus knew who would betray him. And Judas Iscariot received money for betraying Jesus. But it was a small amount of money. It wasn't a great amount of money. So this Holy Thursday, or Maundy Thursday it's also called, is Jesus showing the work of a servant done to his disciples. Serving others is so important, and he's showing here because washing of the feet was a servant's job. That was why Peter was so shocked when Jesus knelt down and washed the feet of the disciples. And it is also done today in remembrance of this. On Holy Thursday, the Pope and some of the bishops, in some parishes even, there's the washing the feet being done. The Pope, for example, washes a lot of the times poor people, homeless people's feet. And that's the washing of the feet. So this marks Holy Thursday, and it is a celebration still. We're still celebrating Mass, and it's still kind of a celebration day. And tomorrow will be Good Friday, and it's the climax of what I'm going to teach in the Easter message. Of course, the resurrection is the ultimate climate, but to walk through the Passion of Christ, I have prepared a very, very special lecture on this. I hope you will join me and watch it. So I see you tomorrow.